Just a few days remain before the government shuts down unless Democrats and Republicans can come to an agreement on federal funding. Join us now, Wisconsin Republican Senator Ron Johnson. And Senator, it's good to see you. I don't know what, before that guy wrote that book, A Perfect Storm, I don't know what we used to use, but we do use it now. And there are some people that think we're looking at something close to that when you listen to Schumer or listen to Senator Schumer or listen to Democrats. Combined with where the Republicans stand on things, maybe this is the time it really does happen. Are you starting to think that?
Well, good morning, Joe. Well, there's no reason for any kind of turmoil whatsoever. I've got a very simple bill, Eliminate Shutdowns Act. And if you haven't passed an appropriation for either all of government or a particular department, you just continue 14-day continuing appropriations and you fund that agency or that department or that program at last year's level. You get rid of all the drama. I passed a similar bill out of my committee back in 2019. It gets rid of all the fiscal cliffs. It allows Congress to go ahead and pass appropriation bills one at a time, where you can find agreement, where there's disagreement. Again, you don't shut down government. You just continue to fund that thing, 14-day rolling continuing appropriations. This is absurd. I come from the private sector. The dysfunction in Congress is profound, is grotesque. And let's face it, with Chuck Schumer demanding, this is what their opening demand is in their negotiation. We'll give you a 4-week continuing resolution, 4 weeks. And all we're asking for is an extra $1.5 trillion worth of spending over the next 10 years. It is absurd. It certainly indicates that they want to roll the dice, I guess. So they want to gamble with the American economy and with people's lives by shutting down the government. Again, the House has passed a continuing resolution. Again, it doesn't have additional spending. There's, they always call anomalies. It's not a completely clean CR, but that's an appropriate thing to do. But what we should do is pass the Eliminate Shutdowns Act, and we get rid of shutdowns for all time. This is unbelievably simple. There's no reason we shouldn't do it.
Yeah, too simple. It makes too much sense. It's not going to happen right away. Maybe someday, right, Senator? But let's say that it doesn't happen in time for this particular instance. In the $1.5 trillion, so I've been I asked Senator Shaheen yesterday, well, what is in there? And she just wanted to talk about negotiating and ACA credits. And there's a wide sort of a continuum. There's people that want $1.5 trillion, and there's people like you. I don't think you want anything, not even ACA, right? But then there's some Republicans in here that are ready to do some ACA credits because of their constituents. So it's strange. But does it end up with a shutdown, in your view, this time?
No. Again, what I would like is I'd like to return to a reasonable pre-pandemic level of spending. But that's not what I'm asking here. I'm saying, okay, this is what we're spending. We're spending about $7 trillion this year. Now, we're only talking about 25% of the budget, which is the discretionary spending. But I'm willing to say let's just keep spending that level until we can work things out. Let's not shut anything down. Let's not disrupt people's lives. And by the way, the beauty of that is now members of both the House and the Senate Appropriations Committee, they can keep working on these things. Again, it just makes so much sense. And I think this might be the moment where we can pass something like this because, again, when Democrats are demanding $1.5 trillion of spending, my guess is we probably will shut the government down. We always come to some accommodation later on. Last year, it took us 6 months to finally fund this fiscal year. 6 months. Since I've been in Congress, we've had 3 shutdowns. We've had 55 continuing resolutions, 55. We've had, I think, 12 either increases or suspensions of the debt ceiling. We've gone from $14 trillion to $37 trillion. Obviously out of control. It's rare we ever pass any appropriation bill prior to the end of the fiscal year. So let's just admit that we're not capable of doing that. The other thing I suggest in my op-ed is let's do some budgetary reforms. Again, if we take the drama, if we take all the partisanship out of just funding government, just have it continue, maybe we'll do some appropriation reforms, some budget reforms, like let's go to 2-year budgets. Then we only have to pass 6 appropriation bills a year. The other bills the other departments were not appropriating, we can do oversight on. Doesn't that make a lot of sense? By the way, there's a lot of bipartisan support for that. So if we can get rid of the partisanship around these shutdowns, let's face it, it's just these are politicians playing games with people's lives. It is ridiculous. End that. Eliminate Shutdowns Act, a very simple bill, 14-day continuing appropriations. All the drama's gone. Now we can get back to work.
The last time, I mean, we did this not too long ago, and a lot of Republicans were sort of looking for more cost cuts than what we got. And they were saying sort of the same thing. We're not going to, unless we have more cost cuts, we're not going to go along with this, and we'll shut down the government. So does either side really want to take away the leverage that gives a party, you know, when one's in power and then it shifts, and then when the other one's in power, the other party seems to do the same thing? You weren't really one of those people, were you? You were sort of holding out for a while, were you not, if we didn't get more cuts?
Sure. You know, when you have these cliffs, you know, you want to get some kind of, you know, result. You'll use that kind of leverage. I'm saying let's get rid of that leverage.
So you're willing to do it? Yeah.
Absolutely. Again, I've been willing to do this since I passed this bill as committee chairman, the Preventing Government Shutdown Act, which, you know, it has some measures in that create additional cliffs. I want to get rid of all that. It's just like, listen, if you can't get your act together, you're going to continue to be dysfunctional. We'll just keep funding at last year's levels. Now, that does create some pressure. If people want to spend more money, you know, they're going to want to get together. And that's, of course, that's what's always happening. When you have these cliffs, when you say, we'll do a continuing resolution until right before Christmas, what ends up happening is eventually the big spenders, the uniparty, come together. That's why we've gone from $14 trillion to $37 trillion in debt. It's clearly out of control. So again, there's really no advantage to this. Just we'll keep funding last year levels. If the big spenders want to get together and spend more, they'll do it. They just don't have to, again, disrupt people's lives or shut down any department of government.
Hey, Senator, the Democrats argue that some of the provisions in the big beautiful bill, or whatever it's called now, in terms of some health care cuts, that certain people are being affected that need help, and it obviously rings true with some Republicans, because we're told that maybe there's 7, 8, 9 Republicans that have similar concerns about people not being able to afford health insurance or health care in their states. And so they sort of have some empathy for what Senator Shaheen is proposing. If that, you're definitely not even there for the ACA credits. What do you tell them to tell their constituents that can't afford health care?
First of all, what they're talking about now is the ACA subsidies, the temporary COVID ACA subsidies. Remember, the reason why insurance is so expensive for the individual market is because of the faulty design of Obamacare. Obamacare is causing those 20 million people on the individual markets to pay a whole lot more. So basically what we did is we took away any kind of participation in those Obamacare premiums from millions of people, which has led to massive fraud. You've probably got about 12 million people on those ACA exchanges that never even use health care. Best estimate is maybe half don't even realize they're signed up for health care, because you have unscrupulous agents and brokers who are just signing people up because all you need is a name and a birth date. You sign somebody up, they get the commission, the insurance companies get the taxpayer money, and nobody ever does. So there's tens of billions of dollars of fraud. So anybody who wants to extend these temporary COVID subsidies wants to perpetuate massive fraud, costing the American taxpayer tens of millions of dollars. In terms of Medicaid under the big beautiful bill, when it cut Medicaid, we slowed the growth of spending, also caused by the faulty design of the Medicaid, the Obamacare expansion Medicaid, which pays $9 for every dollar the states spend for a healthy adult. It pays $9. That's led to all kinds of fraud, versus traditional Medicaid for disabled children. For every dollar the state puts in, the federal government kicks in $1.33. So again, Obamacare is the root cause of all these problems. It is skyrocketing healthcare costs, insurance costs, and all Democrats want to do is throw more money at it. But we want to bring down healthcare costs in a reasonable way.
This was all predicted, too, before Obamacare passed it. But you said that only, it'll be really expensive just to get, any care at all at the very I mean, it does cover a lot of people. And it just, to the other side, when you talk like that, Senator, it sounds like always just blaming everything on Obamacare. But there were serious issues that were predicted at the time. And here we are. They're coming home to roost.
And it's easy to explain. So Obamacare forced all the cost of covering people with pre-existing conditions to the very small percentage of people, less than 10% of people on the individual exchange, as opposed to using high-risk pools, which were in existence, They worked. They could have been tweaked. We could have covered people with pre-existing conditions without doubling, tripling, quadrupling the cost of health insurance for individuals. Again, so Obamacare is what has driven up the cost of individuals for individuals. So then the solution is, well, let's give more subsidies. Let's increase the amount, decrease the amount that people pay. So again, under COVID, people on Obamacare exchanged about 12 million, never had to even pay a dime in premiums. So they want to continue that, but that has led to massive fraud. Tens of billions of dollars, again, being paid right to the insurance companies where people don't even utilize the insurance. I don't want to perpetuate that. I don't think the American taxpayer should be perpetuating that level of fraud. That's what Democrats want to do. And unfortunately, a few of my Republican colleagues are afraid of the lies. Again, they're afraid that all the lies, distortions told by Democrats will come back and hurt them. And it might. Again, politics is a nasty game.